Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
It's that time when you get to listen to me fill your ear holes with entertainment or knowledge or whatever you really think I'm doing with my voice and speech and, well, whatever. I guess it's entertainment. We're all entertainers in one way or another. But I'd like to thank you first and foremost for tuning into the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andrew DeCino. And we have a lot of fun times together. We know that. We talk about a great number of topics. Very entertaining. And I'm not going to say it. The draft is over. The schedule release is over. Training camp has not started. And as our good friend Mike Florio likes to call it, but then, doesn't like to say it out loud, we may be entering the slow time in the NFL, which is now probably until training camp starts. But we still have a ton of great topics to talk about. Once I read off this list of 4 exciting, thought-provoking, tear-jerking, maybe, topics, you'll be like, wow, this is going to be a great episode. Nice job, Andrew. Where'd you come up with these topics? These are fantastic. I'm not going to tease you or tempt you anymore. If you want the topics, here we go. I'll tell you them. And now, I'll tell you right now. Here they are. Okay, so the first topic we're going to be talking about is Julian Edelman. Now, how much more can you beat the dead horse over Julian Edelman, right? He's retired. You've already done a couple segments on that. What else do you want to talk about? Well, no one believes Julian Edelman that he's going to retire. They all think he's going to come to Tampa Bay. And poor Julian Edelman. Imagine if Julian just actually wanted to retire and everyone's like, no, Julian, you're not retiring. That's segment 1. Could he come out of retirement? We can break down some analytics on if he is or is not. The next segment we're talking about is the man, Tim Tebow. He officially is signed in Jacksonville. Now, will he make the final roster? That's yet to be seen. However, he does have a new number. He does look a little bit different. And so will Tim Tebow make the final roster? That is going to be a great topic to deduce. That's coming up second. After that, it's that time for the 2018 draft class. When will each guy be extended? Obviously we can leave out Rosen and Darnold from that conversation, but for guys the likes of Jackson and Mayfield and Allen, of course, when are each of them going to be extended? Tick-tock. Because if each of them have another blow-up season, another spectacular season, their price tags just get more expensive. We'll talk about what each team should do and why. Segment 4 is going to be last episode for segment 4. We did a little Sunday Night Football topic. You know, they had their bracket of 16. I said who my favorite games were. We relished in Sunday Night Football lore. And for segment 4, I'm just going to go through my top 5 Sunday Night Football games to look forward to. Instead of reminiscing on, we're going to look forward to that. There's the 4 segments. Let's just jump right into it. Segment 1, could Julian Edelman come out of retirement? So, of course, Julian Edelman, when he issued his retirement, he was standing and sitting and talking in the middle of Gillette Stadium at night. The lights were on. This was a whole production setup. And he was wearing a shirt that said Foxborough Forever, selling merchandise that says Foxborough Forever. And he said he was going to play until the wheels fell off, and the wheels fell off. Well, what if you can put the wheels back on? Because after Julian Edelman announced his retirement, Gronkowski was asked, you know, what's the likelihood of your good buddy Julian coming out of retirement? And he says it's about a 69% chance. Now, of course, Gronk did use 69% chance as the number, the probability and the likelihood of Edelman coming back and returning. But then he did say if he's able to heal up, I don't see why he can't come back. Because Gronkowski says, you know, he said 69% coming back. Gronk then said, I don't see why Julian wouldn't be back if he healed up. Right? And that's why Julian did say until the wheels fell off. What if the wheels can be put back on? Because Gronkowski's wheels fell off and he was tired of the driver of the vehicle as well. It was Bill Belichick literally, you know, forcing his wheels off with practices and the grueling, I guess you could say no fun, but and the Patriot defenders will say, well, winning's fun. Well, Tom Brady found another way to win and still have fun, but that's another topic for another episode. So Belichick ran Gronkowski's wheels off. Edelman probably ran his own wheels off a little bit too, just the way that he plays. I remember Edelman went on the Pat McAfee show and said, you know, just the way I am, instinctually, the mental acuity I have for the game, I could get open on one leg if I had to. You know, because Pat was saying, well, you know, what if you go down to Tampa Bay, they use you in third down in red zone, you know, playoffs where you've been so successful. And he was like, I could do that, but I'm not that type of player. I'm not like a 10-snap type of player. I need to be out there grinding every single play. I need to get out there and smack a linebacker on like a run play, or, you know, run into someone, get hit, fall flat on my back. That's what gets Julian amped up. You know, I've seen time and again, someone tries to tackle Julian Edelman. He's just like, nope, spins out of it, you know, puts his head down. He's literally like a flying squirrel. That's why his nickname's the Squirrel. You know, he can't catch the squirrel. So that's the way that he plays. He almost plays with like reckless abandon. And so he's not the type of guy to go out there and play for 10 snaps and like, oh, well, we're inside the 20 now. You know, let's get Julian out there. Or it's a 3rd and 5. Let's get Julian out there and hope that he can just turn it on for one play and then turn it off the next. That's not Julian Edelman. We all know that. Even Gronkowski said, he says, Jules was an unbelievable player and he literally gives it his all for his teammates. I just wish the best for Julian to heal up. Obviously, in his little press conference thing, he said he was going to go until the tires fall off, and he sure has. So I'm hoping he heals up. I want the best for him. I've been in that situation before. I believe if Julian truly heals up, whatever's hurting on him, and he fully heals, and he's good, I think he'll be back. I don't see why he wouldn't be back eventually in the future, maybe a year or two away, let me tell you, he's just a competitor. So I say if he heals up 100%, feels good, I think he'll be back in the NFL. And in the interim, Julian has actually taken a job with the NFL Network inside the NFL. And, you know, he has his own production company. So Julian does have a life after football. He has that great personality. He's done Burger Time. He's done Smoothie Time. He makes his little YouTube videos. He even had a little production for, you know, his retirement press conference. So he has a life after football if he wants. Julian has other interests. He does, I think. And I'm conflicted here. You know, you wear a shirt that says Foxborough forever. You emphasize you only play for one team. He said, I quote, I'm a one-team kind of guy. And, you know, he rents out Gillette Stadium, says goodbye to everyone, gets beamed up. Could you really come out of retirement and play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Do you think... Now, I do think that Tom Brady is his guy, his favorite guy, one of his best friends. But I wonder what he would feel in his heart would he feel like he's betraying Patriot fans by telling them one thing then doing another? Because Gronk does have a point. Julian, and Tom has said this too in the Tom vs. Time documentary. It's not like Tom doesn't have other interests. It's not like Julian doesn't have other interests. But being on the football field allows you to be who you truly are and be yourself. And if you want to yell at someone, you can yell at someone. If you want to scream, you can scream. If you want to get amped up, you can get amped up. And you see it time and again. Tom turns into Psycho Tom. He jogs down the sideline, pumps his fist, and starts yelling, "Let's go." Julian Edelman says he likes to get hit, and he likes to hit someone, and he likes to talk smack. And that gets his juices firing. You can't find these situations just in everyday life that get your juices flowing like football does. Now, I understand it's kind of a trade-off for Julian between health, pain, and doing something that you love, and there's really only one situation where you can do these things and scream and yell and get hit, and that's football. So do you want to play football and deal with injury and pain, or do you want to move on to something else? But then you kind of give up that part of your life, and you move on. I know there's a time and place to move on, but would Julian want to move on when really the only thing, and I know it's not the only thing, right? And I'm not trying to diminish it, but if you get healthy, then you're no longer making that trade-off of injury and pain. Well, of course, the football is always pain, but, you know, I'm sure that trade-off becomes a little more favorable to wanting to play football. And I remember even on the on-air draft coverage for, I think, the Draft-a-thon, it was a Zoom with Kevin Hart, Strahan, you know, a bunch of those folks. Brady was there. Edelman was there. I think Mariano Rivera was there. Tom even joked with Julian, saying that, he's like, we all know that Julian is just too scared to tell Coach Belichick that he wants to come out of retirement. He says, you know, we know he's not truly retired. And to which Julian, you know, chuckled, of course, because it's his good friend, and he says, you know, it's got to be tough for Julian in a way when you have Tom someone who you admire and love, and he's probably one of his great friends, and he says, we know Julian didn't retire, let's be honest. He's just too scared to tell Bill Belichick he wants to come to Tampa. I've been there. So when Gronk says he's not retiring, when Tom says we know he's not retiring, but then Julian says he is, and puts on this big production. And then Julian comes out after that and says recently, he says, quote, I'm a one-team guy. There's nothing left to prove. You know, he told the Boston Globe, he says, my knee's breaking down. I'm not going to sit here, you know. I got everything I wanted. I got 3 rings, played in a magical dynasty with an unbelievable franchise coach, best quarterback of all time. I'm not a greedy guy. I played to win. I played to compete. I don't need anything else to prove. I'm good with that. I did. I left all of it out on the field. Now, I think this is all about perspective, too, for Julian Edelman. When you take the perspective of this guy is a 7th-round draft choice, he played quarterback in college, he was like 5'5", a $120 heading into freshman year of high school. Wasn't sure if he was ever going to grow. Had no idea what position he was going to play when he was drafted by Bill Belichick. You had guys in front of you when they say, Julian, you're going to play wide receiver, and then you look at the roster and you look up and you see, oh my God, there's Randy Moss and Wes Welker in front of me. When am I ever going to play? And then it's just that dog mentality of let's keep working, let's keep grinding over and over and over. And I remember after the 2012 season, the New York Giants were trying to court and sign Julian Edelman. And the Patriots, you know, I think he was trying to use that for leverage to get more money. And the Patriots are like, okay, if you want more money, go get it. And then he decided to stay in New England after sitting or not starting, really. Limited snaps on offense for sure. 2009, 10, 11, 12. And waiting all that time and then capitalizing on your situation. And so when you have the perspective of, wow, if I had looked back when I was at Kent State or when I was in high school or even when I was drafted by the New England Patriots, if I had told myself, wow, you are going to be Tom Brady's most trustworthy receiver ever. You will have won 3 Super Bowls, a Super Bowl MVP. You're the second greatest playoff receiver of all time. And the second half of the Patriot dynasty does not exist without you. You were what made this dynasty continue. You were the juice and the spark plug to the offense. That when Tom Brady didn't know where to go, he would always look to you. So from that perspective, yeah. He's not a greedy guy, he says. He has everything he ever wanted. But on the other hand, there are guys that always just crave a little more. You know, there's still some things left to do. And if from the other viewpoint, well, if my knee was healthy, man, playing down in Tampa Bay could be cool. I know what Tom's trying to do. There's one thing Tom has not accomplished in his career that he's gunning for, that Skip Bayless thinks he has a chance for, that I think he has a chance for. Man, wouldn't it be cool to be a part of that team? Maybe there's a little truth to being too scared to tell Bill Belichick that he wants to go. And I don't know logistically if he would need to, because I think the Patriots did cut him so that he could get, I think, an extra $2 million. It was a nice gesture by the Patriots to give him that $2 million on his way out the door. So, yeah, it would be cool to see Julian down in Tampa. But when you're bone on bone in your knee, those aren't easy injuries to get back to 100%. I mean, I don't know if he's even gotten surgery on it right now or if he's just going to roll with it right now, heading into retirement with no construction done on his knee. So if he wanted to go down to Tampa, he'd need to put in a lot of work. He'd need to rehab. He'd need to get surgery probably. So is Julian up to doing that? I don't know. Right now it seems like he's content. I think seeing Julian on Inside the NFL would be actually really cool. Like we said, Julian has a great personality. He's a funny guy. And in summary, as much as I do want to see Julian Edelman play with Tom Brady one last time, I do feel bad that we can't fully appreciate Julian's retirement because we're all saying, he's not retired. And I do feel bad for him in a sense because, the guy just maybe wants to retire. And we're all saying, oh, no, he's not actually retired yet. But, Julian has had a remarkable career. And if we want to have the Hall of Fame debate again, have it with me. Tweet me. But, again, I don't think, if I were a betting man, I would bet that Julian would not be going to Tampa Bay. Julian is done, in my opinion. But I guess we will see. Time will only tell. Well, time will only tell if Tim Tebow will make the final roster for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He is officially signed, and we can talk about that for ages, or we can just talk about it next segment, which we will right after the commercial break.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Hello and welcome back to our regularly scheduled program. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. And once again, I am your host, Andrew DeCino. Segment 1, we talked about Julian Edelman, the Iron Man, as folks in New England like to call him, or the Squirrel. But he is newly retired, and he will be joining Inside the NFL Network. According to Julian Edelman, but according to others, he is going to be joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, yeah, we assigned some probabilities to this. I don't think it's likely that he's going to go to the Bucs, but Gronk and Brady are still holding out some hope for him, and that's what we talked about in segment 1. So, segment 2 is Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is officially signed. Will he make the final roster? Now, before we get into that, I'd like to say one thing. What's the issue that some people have with Tim Tebow making the Jacksonville Jaguars team? There are some people that are upset and complaining that, he's taking a chance away from someone else who earned the spot more, I guess. I guess that is subjective. That is not objective. That is their opinion that someone else has earned the spot with more qualifications than Tim Tebow. We broke down who are tight ends on the Jags roster right now, and it is no one special right now. Sorry. O'Shaughnessy with 20 grabs. I mean, you could feed Tim Tebow the rock and give him 20 grabs right off the bat if you want to go by stats. But listen, it's not like he's joining a tight end group that has Gronk, Brayton, O.J. Howard. I mean, seriously, what's the harm with signing Tim Tebow and with having to be a tight end? People are comparing it to Colin Kaepernick. Seriously? You're comparing it to Colin Kaepernick? That's a whole nother wormhole. That is completely different. Tim Tebow has been out of the league, 7 years, 8 years? Right around then. You know, he last played quarterback probably in Denver because the Jets used him as a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none type of guy the following year. So he's been out of the league quite a while. But honestly, why are people so upset and saying he doesn't deserve it and even mentioning him in the same breath as Colin Kaepernick? People don't realize that teams can sign whomever they like and cut whomever they like. If they want to sign Tim Tebow for a variety of reasons, if some of the reasons are, well, they truly think that he can add value to them offensively, whether they use him as a tight end traditionally or an H-back kind of guy where you line him up in the backfield, you have him take direct snaps, you have him, just get him the ball whatever way you want, or inline tight end, whatever they think. No one knows what Tim Tebow can do on the football field better than the Jacksonville Jaguars can right now. They are the team that worked him out. They are the team that signed him. I think they know what he can do. And on top of that, you are also adding a guy that would probably bring positivity to your locker room. And it would probably help keep some guys or teach some guys how to be a professional and how to hold yourself to a high standard. And on top of that, signing him as a tight end and giving him number 85, by the way, solidifies that he is not going to be playing gimmick quarterback, right? 85. He is going to be a tight end. There is not going to be any distractions with Trevor Lawrence or Tim Tebow. That talk will never occur. And are you worried that Tim Tebow will cause distraction for Trevor Lawrence as well? Well, Trevor Lawrence has been the highest-ranked prospect since he graduated middle school. I think he can deal with this. I think he has dealt with this for 7-8 years. Since Tim Tebow was last in the league, Trevor Lawrence was dealing with publicity of being such a highly ranked prospect. So Trevor Lawrence can handle it. Urban Meyer knows him best, right? They had a lot of success together. And the Jaguars and Shad Khan and everyone is on the same page about what Tim Tebow can do and the type of value that he can directly add on the football field and indirectly add through his presence in the locker room and positive mindset, that he can be a net positive. Now, Rex Ryan was asked, well, why did you cut him, right? Because Rex Ryan is a big supporter of him playing tight end for the Jaguars. Well, Tim Tebow wanted to play quarterback back then. He wasn't okay being a tight end or an H-back or whatever. He wanted to be a quarterback in the National Football League. And yes, that was probably going to cause distractions in the locker room too. As soon as your quarterback starts playing poorly, you start to hear Tebow chants. That's what happened with Kyle Orton in Denver. That's what happened with Mark Sanchez on the Jets. Mark Sanchez would play poorly. You'd hear Tebow chants. Tebow, Tebow. That's a distraction. And so now he's going to play a completely different position. No distraction there at quarterback. You have a guy at quarterback that's not Kyle Orton or Mark Sanchez. It's Trevor Lawrence. He's used to the spotlight. And then, of course, you have a coach who knows him well. An organization that has not historically won. So I don't understand how the organization can complain, because it's not like they have a reputation of winning football games. They don't know what it takes to win. Urban Meyer does, not at the NFL level, but Urban Meyer does in college. So he takes one of the most successful college football players of all time, the two most successful, maybe, Tim Tebow and Trevor Lawrence, and he has them on the same team. So let's see what they can do. Colin Kaepernick, on the other hand, right, was not signed by anyone. You can't force a team to sign Colin Kaepernick, just as such, Tim Tebow could not force any team to sign him. He, in a sense, lucked out that Urban Meyer, the college coach that he had so much success with, got a job in the NFL, because that was his opening. Otherwise, Tim Tebow would probably never play football again. That's the reality of it. And so you know, the San Francisco 49ers move on from Colin Kaepernick. In the same way that the Jaguars think that Tim Tebow could add a net positive to them on the football field and off the football field, the 49ers, as well as other teams, probably did not think the same about Colin Kaepernick. And that's why he was not signed. And you cannot force a team to sign anyone. Now, I don't think, you can collude among teams, and I think that's what the lawsuit was on with Kaepernick dating back a few years ago, was that, you can't collude to keep someone out of the league. Each of the clubs can individually choose who they want to sign and who they do not want to sign. And they had chosen not to sign Colin Kaepernick, as is their right. And they thought that Kaepernick, it's not like Kaepernick was lighting it up on the football field. In fact, he played very, very poorly his last, I guess his last few seasons or whatever you'd like to call. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers were a bad football team with Colin Kaepernick. After probably 2012, maybe 2013. But it kind of went downhill with Kaepernick on the football field. And then off the football field, we could have a long discussion about this too. But I believe, according to sources, I do believe Rich Eisen with what he says. According to him, I listened to him the other day. Teams wanted to know what Kaepernick's plan was for his public speaking and for what he was going to say at press conferences, not at press conferences, whatever it may be. They wanted a plan. They wanted to know, and they wanted to just be prepared and have that information. And according to Rich Eisen, there was no plan. It was almost a whenever I feel like it kind of deal. And as much as it's Colin Kaepernick's right to, say those things and say what he believes in, and if he wants to say it at a press conference, he can do so. It's just as much those teams to want to know what his plan is and say, hey, maybe if it's in this scenario, don't do it, or if it's in this scenario, do it. And if he says, no, I don't have a plan, I'm sorry, then it's okay. The teams don't need to sign him, and they can part ways. Because at the end of the day, each club is trying to win, but they're also trying to make money as well. And they are concerned with ratings. They are concerned with advertisers. And they are concerned with, the public and publicity. So they want to make the best decisions on the football field, which we already had deduced he was not playing very well. And then off the football field, they were not sure what he was going to do. And so, business-wise, they said, okay, we don't think that this is going to be a net positive for us here. So they moved on. And so to equate those two scenarios, Tim Tebow and Colin Kaepernick, as many are trying to say, or that Tim Tebow is taking a spot away from anyone. Why don't you go become the general manager of a football team or go buy a football team? And then you can choose to sign whoever you want. How's that? Because Shad Khan and Urban Meyer can choose to do whatever they want. It's their football team. And if they think that Tim Tebow has some positive attributes to bring to the club, then they're going to sign him. And that's what they did. They're not going to make decisions that they full well know are foolish. They're not signing Tim Tebow just for the fun of it. If Tim Tebow had a horrific workout, they wouldn't have signed him. They wouldn't do something that just completely contradicts what their ultimate goal is, to win football games. Now, I do, there's video of Tim Tebow wearing the 85 jersey at practice. It looks like he bulked up. It looks like he is tight end size. So it's not like he's going to be jack of all trades gimmick guy. It looks like he will be playing tight end position. So, listen. I don't think Tim Tebow is going to be the guy that's going to have 65 offensive snaps, the first week out there, or maybe even any week. I just don't know. But what I do know is that I think Tim Tebow is 100% going to make the final roster. He got signed, and in my opinion, when your tight end room consists of James O'Shaughnessy and others who I just don't know, I believe that Tim Tebow makes your final roster. Heck, the Patriots just signed Brian Hoyer literally to almost be a coach or mentor for Mac Jones. Is it far-fetched to sign Tim Tebow to, hey, if he adds a spark to the tight end room, great. If he doesn't, well, at least he's going to be a positive influence on our football team. Okay. Yet people aren't barking at the Patriots for signing Brian Hoyer and saying, well, they should have signed Colin Kaepernick instead to be Mac Jones' mentor. Where's that noise? It's Tim Tebow. It's almost upsetting how much people are against this move. Tim Tebow is a phenomenal guy. It's not like he has done bad things or is unlikable. The only reason you would think he is unlikable is because he is too likable and too nice. And then you're the type of person who doesn't like those super nice people because you think that it's impossible to be that nice. And you probably think that because you're not very nice yourself. Sorry. It's just, it's mind-boggling to me. He's signed. I think he's going to make the final roster. I think he's going to dress on game day. I think he'll have the ball in his hands week 1. I think he's only going to add positivity to the Jaguars team. And the second he does not start adding positivity, then he'll be done. And everyone plays the video over and over. The one target that Tim Tebow has had in his career, I think, hit off of his helmet. I don't think he got his head around in time. Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo. And one last thing, because as much as I'm saying we shouldn't, Why are people comparing Kaepernick and Tebow now? The other thing is, too, why is Tim Tebow out of the league? Why did Tim Tebow get pushed out of the league to begin with? Because I hear people saying Tim Tebow is the only person in any line of work who doesn't need to update their resume in 8 years, because all we do is still look at what he did back in Denver in 2011. Why did he get moved out of the league to begin with? Probably because the Jets effed him up and ruined him. But he was a product of bad fortune. Bad fortune that Peyton Manning became available and John Elway wanted him and Peyton Manning wanted to be there. All Tim Tebow did was beat out Kyle Orton after the Broncos went 1-4. And then Tim Tebow gets him into the playoffs, has miracle fourth quarter wins, great comebacks, even goes and wins a playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, throws for over 300 yards. And then he says, well, I still want a shot at playing quarterback. You signed Peyton Manning, okay, where else can I go? Oh, the Jets, you want me to come and maybe I'll have a chance to beat out Mark Sanchez. Wrong. They didn't give him a chance to beat out Mark Sanchez. They wanted him to be like a clown, a 10-trick pony kind of guy. And he never got the shot. And he said, I want to play quarterback because, and he probably, I understand him wanting to deserve the shot to play quarterback. You win a playoff game as quarterback. There's a whole lot of people who've played worse than you and got the chance to be quarterback. But like we just said, I'm not going to now contradict my previous point. The teams can sign whoever they want and cut whoever they want. So Tim Tebow, yes, he was out of the league, as is the league's right. Now, do I agree with the opinion for him not to have been in the NFL for that long? No, I disagree. I think that he was good enough to be there. I think that not everyone can win a playoff game against Mike Tomlin, Big Ben Roethlisberger, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's that. And on top of that, every off-the-field or intangible benefit that Tim Tebow adds, I think is positive too. So listen, I am a Tim Tebow supporter. I think he's going to make the final roster. He's wearing 85. He's bulked up. He's going to play the tight end position. And could you imagine Tim Tebow running down the seam, catching, 30-yard bombs from Trevor Lawrence? I mean, ESPN's going to go crazy over it. And in the last couple of years, think about the teams that have transitioned from being one of the most unpopular teams, right? The Cleveland Browns were so unpopular. They're horrific. No one wanted to go to Cleveland. And then you get Baker Mayfield, and then there's a resurgence. The Buffalo Bills, no news outlet would even mention the Buffalo Bills name. It was almost as if they weren't a football team to some stations. And then they get Josh Allen and Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. And then they're the hottest team in the NFL. Possible favorites to win the AFC. So now you're the Jaguars, who are next on that list of being irrelevant. And you get Trevor Lawrence, and then you go get Tim Tebow. Now you are pretty relevant. People care about you. I think this is only positivity. I like Tim Tebow. All right, so what is on the docket after this next commercial break? Again, if you disagree with me on anything I said about Tim Tebow, please find me in the Twitter. Whether it's at Andrew DeCino or at GSMC_football, find me. We just mentioned Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield. Let's talk a little bit more about them. The 2018 draft class, when will each guy be extended? It is time for them if you want to get a bargain on a quarterback. Find out about that right after the commercial break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching.
Hey!
The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
GSMC football podcast. So we've had a great first two segments of the show thus far, and we're about to have a supreme third segment. So what did we discuss in the first two? And the first was Julian Edelman. Is he truly retired or is he not? That was the question that we asked ourselves and kind of broke down and used information from Rob Gronkowski and Tom Brady and his own verbiage too, and that he used in the press conference, plethora of different things. End result, I think he's staying in Tampa. I think he's staying retired, although Tom and Gronk think that he might come to Tampa if he does get those wheels back on. The next segment we talked about was Tim Tebow. And he is officially wearing 85 right now in the Jaguars uniform. He is officially signed. Will he make the final roster? That is yet to be determined. I think he will. And I also wasn't too happy with some of the displeasure that folks are passing on towards Tim Tebow and the Jaguars, and that others are deserving of a chance, not Tim Tebow. Hoo-hoo. Well, Tim Tebow signed, so what are you going to do about it? Okay? My not-so-curt version of that was fully displayed in segment 2, where I kind of outlined, hey, it's each team's right to sign who they want to sign. And I do think I can see the Jaguars' standpoint of Tim Tebow adds a net positive on the football field and off the football field. He adds both. And if there was a guy working out next to Tim Tebow and they were both getting workouts and Tim Tebow was worse, okay. Then, yeah. Listen, like I said, that situation didn't occur. It's not like someone's working out right next to Tim Tebow at tight end, and Tim Tebow is objectively horrific, and the other guy is way better. And the Jaguars are like, yeah, let's go with Tim Tebow anyways. They're not making these decisions. They're not making counterintuitive decisions to winning. You think they want to put the best people around their new guy, Trevor Lawrence. I guarantee you that. So that's what we discussed in segment 2. Now, on the topic of quarterbacks, there are 5 first-round quarterbacks in the 2018 draft class. Baker, Darnold, Rosen, Allen, and, of course, Jackson. Now, they played their third years. last year, right there, through 3 years of their NFL careers. Allen was probably third in MVP running. Jackson has won an MVP, but he's 2 years removed from that. He won it in 2019. And I think he had, he got the Baltimore Ravens into the playoffs again. Baker Mayfield had a huge rebound after he had a great rookie year, very dismal second year, and then a huge rebound into the third year, in which he got the Cleveland Browns into the playoffs, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then holding their own against the Kansas City Chiefs. They did. They held their own against the Chiefs. So, the current highest quarterback paid right now, average salary-wise, is Patrick Mahomes, right? He's being paid, on average, $45 million a year after that huge 10-year extension. The way that the quarterback market has gone, and the reason why we've seen guys like Garoppolo get paid a gigantic amount of money, like Joe Flacco back in the day, Matt Stafford was getting paid a ton of money, Jared Goff, is because oftentimes the way that the market is right now, guys leapfrog each other. So if person A gets signed to a contract worth, let's say, $30 million, person B, who is also a quarterback, says, hey, you know what? The market says $30 million. All I need to do is say, I'm better than that guy. I should be paid more. It's my turn. That's the baseline right there. $30 million is the baseline. I should be going up. And then it just goes up and up and up and up. So these guys, and the reason I am mentioning, quarterback salary when it comes to these 2018 draft classes, because 3 of them are probably due for an extension with their respective teams. The Browns love Baker. He got them to the playoffs. The Bills, they think they have an MVP stud every single year, and I would agree with them. Josh Allen. And then Lamar Jackson. Out of the 3, I'd say, predicting to get the highest paid salary would be Allen, followed by Baker, followed by Lamar. And, in terms of average salary per year, right? Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz. Would you say those are the top quarterbacks in the league? Because that's how they're ranked by average salary. Dak's not the second best quarterback in the league. Jared Goff's not the 5th best quarterback in the league. Kirk Cousins is certainly not ranked below Aaron Rodgers, or one spot behind Rodgers in terms of how good you are. So average salary in your contract, just from looking at this list, is not an indicator of how you are actually as a quarterback. Because would you say that Taysom Hill is a better quarterback than Josh Allen or Justin Herbert or Baker Mayfield or Ryan Fitzpatrick even? Because that's who he is ranked ahead of on this list. So that's how the game of leapfrog plays into this. Derek Carr, Matt Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Ryan Tannehill and Matt Ryan are all ranked higher than Tom Brady in terms of salary. You play leapfrog in this league. One guy gets the contract like Mahomes did. Well, next on the list, that's where the bar is set, $45 million. So then Dak Prescott says, all right, I guess I get $40 million. Deshaun got Deshaun got 39, so then Dak got 40. Rodgers got 33.5, so Wilson gets 35. Kirk got 33. Aaron gets 33.5. That's just the way the market goes. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So let's take a look at these 3 2018 draft class guys. Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. And we can scrap Darnold and Rosen. Those guys, in my eyes, are in the same category. Busts. Sorry. Hate to break the news to you. They're busts. So we'll start in order of how they were drafted. Baker Mayfield first. I think Baker Mayfield won't get an extension until, if you want to do it during the season, go do it during the season. I think the Browns would really like to see a half season through Baker right now, because Baker's progression hasn't been linear. In fact, it started great, then went down, then went back up. Do you want to see if it goes down again before signing him? Now, I think that Baker is going to be Cleveland's quarterback for the long-term future, but if Cleveland wants to get a little bit of a bargain here, this is where it literally is kind of a gamble. If you want the reassurance that Baker is going to be 2020 Baker and not 2019 Baker, you wait half a season before extending him, or a full season. But the gamble is, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, if he plays great, now you know you have your quarterback for sure. But he's going to be more expensive now because you waited. And now he played better. And if you wait and he plays poorly, then you have another decision. The second decision would be, we think he's going to rebound. We're going to sign him anyways, but we can sign him for less. That's your second decision. Or you could scrap both those decisions and say, let's just sign him now. It's a gamble because we don't know whether he's going to go to the up scenario and have a great 2021 year, or go to the down scenario and kind of regress a little bit again. And that's the gamble you're taking, but you probably would be able to sign him more affordably than if you waited 8 games and it went to the up scenario, the boom scenario, not the bust. Right? I take a look at having 3 options each time. Sign now, and you're gambling because you don't know whether it will go boom or bust, and it'll be a relatively good deal because he still has 2 years left on his contract, right? When you have 2 years left on your contract, you're relatively happy that, hey, they're signing me now, they're extending me before I even reaching near the conclusion of my contract. So that's one scenario. Scenario 2 and 2, or I guess you could say 2A and 2B. 2A is the boom scenario in which you wait 8 games or an entire year, his entire 4th year, and you say, wow, he played great. So we know we have our guy. He keeps improving, but then he's going to cost a lot more, I bet, than he would right now. Or same 2B, right? That's your second scenario. 2B, it's the bust. He does not have a great year. He regresses back to 2019. Browns missed the playoffs. I assume they still want Baker, right? They're not going to scrap it all and start over. I think Baker's shown enough that he's not a guy that you just scrap it all and start over. So you get cents on the dollar and on at least first contract. But then you're kind of sitting there hoping that, is he gonna get back to 2020 Baker anytime soon? And the reason you have to wait these scenarios is because you do want to keep guys in place on your team. You want to have Nick Chubb. You want to have Kareem Hunt. You want to have Jarvis Landry. You want to have Njoku. I think Odell Beckham Jr. is still there. You want to have Higgins. There are a lot of guys that they like on this team. They want to keep in place. A lot of young defensive guys, I think, drafted also from 2017 onwards that they are going to want to re-sign. So you need the money. And I think the best way to get yourself in a team-friendly scenario money-wise where you can maneuver around the cap is probably to sign now for Baker. My decision, if I were the Browns, I would say sign now. because I think the probability that Baker will go boom rather than bust is pretty good. I think Baker will continue to progress in the right direction. So that is, I would sign now if I am the Browns. Now, let's move on to the Bills and Josh Allen. Josh Allen was third in MVP. Josh Allen has had more of a linear progression. A very, very poor rookie year. A better second year. He got to the playoffs. But then the tale became for Josh Allen that he was boneheaded at times and just goofy and making stupid football decisions. We all remember that 2019 wildcard game against Houston. Josh Allen, I think, had a 16-0 lead and blew it. And at one point, he was throwing the ball over his shoulder on lateral plays. And you say to yourself, what is he doing? And then you see Josh Allen trying to stiff arm a defensive lineman and backpedaling 30 yards and then being sacked for 30 yards. And you're like, what are you doing? And so that he had quite a few of those plays in 2019. And then you're like, well, yeah, he got the Bills to the playoffs. Almost won a playoff game. And let's see how he can do in his third year. And then he just explodes. So if you look at it, it's almost like a, what would it be? What type of graph is that? I don't know. The one where it just like, it'll the slope of the line, if you look at your from 1 to 2, was like a reasonable, rise over run 1, right? It might have just been a 1 over 1 here. Time goes on, gets a little bit better incrementally. Normal, right? Normal progression. Then you look to year 2 to 3, and it jumps up to like 5. He improved like 5 times faster in 1 year than he did in the previous year. He was third in MVP. If it weren't for Rodgers, maybe Allen would have beaten out Mahomes. I truly think so in MVP. And he did so, and part of it, I remember there was a Bill Belichick press conference. He was asked about Josh Allen because his completion percentage went up about 10 points. And they're saying, how much do you attribute it to, what do you think happened? And he's like, it's not like he was having atrocious throws his first 2 years. It's not like he just figured out how to become more accurate, because they're like saying, how did he become more accurate? He's saying it wasn't that. Yeah, a lot of it was he did become more accurate, but he started making a lot better decisions. You don't need to throw it 60 yards every single play. You can become smarter with what you do with the football. So that's what Josh Allen did. He increased his completion percentage 10 points. Then he has the leading receiver in the NFL, Stephon Diggs, and I'm sure that helps a lot too. And then you go 13-3. You would have had the second seed, and you did have the second seed, and you would have had a bye if it were how it has been, like always. But you didn't have a bye going into the playoffs. So that's fine. You play Indianapolis and you beat them. You play Baltimore and you beat them. And then you play Kansas City and you have a tough game. And that's okay. So now you go from losing in wild card round to winning 2 playoff games and going to the AFC Championship game. That's great improvement. And just as we weighted the scenarios of Baker going boom or bust, the probabilities of Josh Allen regressing versus continuing to improve, I think far more heavily on he is going to continue to improve. Because I think he, with Diggs around him, has been a great influence. I think that the decision-making he has is a lot better. He's cut out a lot of those shenanigan plays. But I do, at the end of the day, think he takes a lot of gigantic sacks. And he needs to stop doing that. He needs to realize he can't. Part of what makes Josh Allen so great are making those extending plays and stiff-arming guys. But there are times when he has to say, let me just cut my losses here. I'm not going to be able to stiff-arm Aaron Donald. Can't stiff arm my way out of this. I'm just going to, throw it away, whatever, live to see another down. And I think he will improve that because he has cut some of those plays out from 19 to 20, and I think he will from 20 to 21. My evaluation for Josh Allen would be sign now, extend now. If you're the Bills, you will get the best team-friendly deal now than if you wait and he has an MVP year, then you're going to be paying him $50 million a year. Now, lastly, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson finally won a playoff game. I think he was 0-2 prior to that. And then he immediately got dismantled and looked horrible against Josh Allen and the Bills, who we just talked about. Lamar plays great during the regular season. Rushes for 1,000 yards. And against, teams worse than the Ravens, he plays very, very well. But I think against a good defense and a good football team, or if the team he's playing gets a lead against him, he starts to falter. And that's why he's had so much difficulty in the playoffs, because he plays tough defenses, he plays teams that are capable of getting a lead against him, and then there's a while for as soon as a team had a lead in the second half against Lamar Jackson, Lamar would always lose. I think he's only put a stop to that one time. So Lamar, the type of offense that it appears the Baltimore Ravens like to run, is one of let's get ahead in the football game and run the ball and play Baltimore Ravens hard-nosed football, right? We're the Baltimore Ravens. Now, that's all great during the regular season. I think that the Ravens could probably rack up 10 wins every single year if they wanted to. 10, 11 wins without blinking an eye. Right? Because you do have Lamar, who's pretty special at, dancing, whatever he wants to do. Running around, throwing the... And I don't think he's a great thrower, but he's good enough to get you 10, 11 wins a year against average to subpar opponents, which is okay. Then the playoffs roll around, and I just don't think he can get it done. Just right now, unless he drastically improves his throwing ability, because it can't be first read, drop your eyes, start running. It needs to be, I can drop back every single time and throw it with authority on you. You've heard it before if you've ever listened to me. My evaluation of a good quarterback is, can you drop back every single time with the defense knowing you're going to throw it and still throw it down their throat? If you're down by 14, can you come back? Lamar can't right now. If I'm Baltimore, I'm not extending him now. I am waiting to see what he does in his entire fourth year and what he does in the playoffs before making a decision. And after that, we can evaluate. But if it is another same deal from the Baltimore Ravens where you just have a pretty good regular season and then bust in the playoffs, I don't know what you do with Lamar Jackson, to be honest. I don't. Send him to Tom House, the great throwing coach? I just don't know. We'll evaluate that, I guess, when the time comes. But in terms of those three quarterbacks, Baker, extend now. Josh, extend now. Lamar, I'm sorry, you have to wait for a fourth year. I need to see what you can do. Because you have not done enough to extend now, certainly. So, that is my thought on Lamar Jackson. And again, the order of these quarterbacks being signed is important too. If Baker extends first, then Josh will leapfrog him and probably get much higher than him. If Josh signs first, he'll probably get somewhere near Mahomes, and then Baker will be able to probably not quite leapfrog Josh, but probably settle right above Dak Prescott. Very interesting to see. Very, very fun to see. And we'll continue to keep an eye on this during the slow period. All right, well, that's enough for the three quarterbacks in the 2018 draft class who need extensions soon. Coming up after this, we'll have our top 5 Sunday Night Football games to look forward to in the 2021 year. Right after the commercial break. Stick with us.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the last segment of our show. We've had a great couple segments so far to our episode. First, we talked about Julian Edelman. Then we talked about Tim Tebow. And then lastly, we talked about the 2018 draft class with the likes of Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson specifically, because time is ticking for their extensions to start coming in. And then we'll play the game of leapfrog with contract worth and the likes of all of that. But with the schedule release behind us, there's still a lot more that we can take a look at with, what games to look forward to. And if you remember our episode last time, we used segment 4 as a platform to talk about the top 16 Sunday Night Football games of the last decade. Because Sunday Night Football has been the number 1 rated primetime show in America for 10 years running. So it's only fitting to keep the Sunday Night Football theme going for another week during segment 4. Excuse me. So what could we talk about for Sunday Night Football? Well, last week we were looking backwards. Now let's look forward. What are some of the games that we cannot wait to watch at 8:20 p.m. on Sunday nights? I'll give you my top 5. My top 5 games that I am looking forward to 100%. And there are some really, really good games on here. Some fantastic games. And Sunday Night Football has been, I guess, lucky, or they earned it, to get some games like this on their agenda. But I'm going to start with my 5th best matchup, and I am going to include the NFL kickoff game as well, and that will be my 5th. The NFL kickoff is going to be broadcast on NBC, so you'll have Al, Chris, and Michelle, the whole gang there. And it is going to be Dallas and Tampa Bay. Dak Prescott's return. You'll have the entire Tampa Bay team returning, too. Everyone from offense starters to defensive starters to long snappers to holders to punters to kickers. They're back. Dak Prescott's back. Now, can the Cowboys get back to the playoffs? Something they thought would be an annual occurrence once they got Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. And now you got them. Now what are you going to do? And then the excuse became, well, their defense has a lot of holes in it. Can't blame Dak for Dallas's D giving up 40 Dak scores 41, which is unrealistic, of course. Now they drafted some guys on defense. Now the defense should be capable soon to start making some stops. But can they do so? That is a tough test. A new defense against a team that is now cohesive. They are Super Bowl champions. It is very difficult to beat someone on a banner-dropping night. Tom Brady, you know he's going to be motivated as ever. The defense has been spectacular for Tampa Bay ever since the divisional game against Drew Brees and the Saints in the Superdome. So there's a lot of storylines going on here. I have this fifth for, those several reasons. And it's also banner drop. There's nothing better than to have a full capacity stadium. Chris, and Michelle there to open the game for us. Banners dropping, cannons firing. And I think then all of Tampa Bay will fully be able to appreciate what Tom Brady has been able to come in there and do in 1 year. And he'll probably have his true Tampa Bay greeting with all fans there in capacity. Now, this is an environment probably tough for Dak Prescott to go up against the type of defense that gave Patrick Mahomes fits. This is your first game back. A lot of emotions. This is going to be tough. I am looking forward to this game a lot. And this is America's team versus the Super Bowl champions and Tom Brady. That's pretty darn good. Now, the next game I have on my docket is going to be the Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. This is going to be Week 12, November 28th. The last time the Browns and the Ravens played, it was when I think Lamar Jackson had to run to the bathroom during the game. He ran all the way to the locker room, holding his pants, changed his pants, came back, ran onto the field, threw a touchdown. Ravens won. Now, I think this is almost could be a changing of the guard type of game. I assume both teams are probably going to be pretty good, or at least competing for the division Week 12. And if the Browns can go in there and go into Baltimore and say, no, this is our game here, then it might be a ceremonial, this is our division now. And yes, I am discounting the Pittsburgh Steelers from this too. I think that the Browns have a great chance to go into this game and win, and in effect win the division. The matchups that we've seen from the Browns and the Ravens in the past have been really good. I think this is a great fourth-ranked game on Sunday Night Football. Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson, we talked about them both just last segment. They need to leave their mark. Can Lamar consistently do it against top teams in this league, which the Cleveland Browns are an emerging top team in this league? They are my number 4. Fourth best game on the Sunday Night Football schedule. And again, there are so many honorable mentions, and I'm sure I'll give an honorable mention shout out at the very end. I will. Trust me. I won't forget. So now we are moving on to the top 3. I am going to give San Francisco and Seattle Week 13, just 1 week after the Baltimore and Browns affair. They're going to be my third best game. We talked last week, game 256 of the regular season back in 2019 came down to a Jacob Hollister goal line stop where the ball, did it cross? Did it not cross? I don't know, but it came down to about an inch. An inch away from deciding who wins the NFC West and who is the wild card. Seattle, somehow, some way, always plays tight, close games in prime time. I don't know what happens. It always comes down to the wire, to the 1 yard line, to a last play. And San Francisco, if Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy and they're playing well, this again could be for the NFC West. And if they have moved on to Trey Lance, it'll be interesting. Is Trey Lance playing well? And can Trey Lance go into Seattle and win a football game? So regardless, because if Jimmy Garoppolo is playing for the 49ers, my assumption is the 49ers are going to be good and competing for the division, which makes this game, San Francisco versus Seattle, competitive game for the division. And like I said, those games are always great. And Seattle somehow has a flair for the dramatic. Now, if Trey Lance is playing, that probably means San Francisco may not be doing too hot. But again, San Francisco would have to be way, way out of it for this game not to be interesting. The fact of the matter is the NFC West is fantastic. They'll probably cannibalize each other a little bit. It's not like you're going to have, it's week 13. It's not like you're going to have a 11-1 football team or 11-2 football team versus, a 3-10 football team at this point. They're probably going to be pretty close to the pack. They're probably going to be right around 7, 8, 9 wins at week 13, and they're going to be close. Trey Lance could be starting and San Francisco still be in it for a wild card spot, let's say. And if Trey Lance is playing, I want to see what Trey Lance can do in prime time against Seattle. That'll be his first test in all likelihood on Sunday Night Football, unless he plays week 3, which I don't see him doing. So again, Seattle with that flair for the dramatic. We know what Russell Wilson can do. DK Metcalf, we know his monster ability, what he can do as well. That is going to be a good game. That is my third ranked game. Remember, we had number 5. We had was opening night, Dallas and Tampa Bay. Number 4 we had was Cleveland and Baltimore. Number 3 we had San Francisco and Seattle. And then number 2 is going to be Buffalo and Kansas City. It's a rematch of the AFC Championship game. An AFC Championship game that unfortunately wasn't as close as we hoped. But it was against an up-and-coming team that was making leaps and bounds faster than anyone could have predicted, with a MVP candidate in Josh Allen, with the leading receiver in multiple metrics, Stephon Diggs, with a pretty formidable defense, coached very, very well. A team that prior to 2017 hadn't seen the playoffs in 20 years, was it? And now it appears as if this matchup could be one that we see in the AFC Championship for years to come now. Buffalo and Kansas City. It's going to be an Arrowhead. Crowd will be in a frenzy, just like it was in the AFC Championship game. Except you'll have more fans there than in the regular season. Than in the AFC Championship game. We expect Kansas City to be at full capacity. Now, the Bills, I think, are continue to progress. right? It's going to be hard to match the same progression that they did from 2019 to 2020 because they went from, a wild card loss team that was 10-6 to a 13-3 AFC Championship team with an MVP guy, Josh Allen. Now, the Bills know what they need to fix, and they drafted their needs and wants, which was defensive help. That offense doesn't need a ton of help. Offenses are fine going running back by committee, which it appears they're fine doing with Singletary and Zach Moss. And they got a lot of help on the defensive side. They got Russo, that big edge guy. Huge. I think they also drafted defensive end or edge in the second round, too. So they know where they needed help. They needed help run stopping and getting to the quarterback. So they are filling those needs. Now, they are going against a very, very tough guy to defend. That's Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying he's impossible. There will come a time when there will be a well-known recipe on how to beat Patrick Mahomes. And if you can do it, then you'll have a great shot. Like with Brady, it was, first of all, have Brady on the road helps one, right? Because then it changes. It takes a lot of the mental success that he has out of it, with audibling at the line, calling whatever plays he wants. Takes that kind of a little bit out of it, half out of it. Next would be get interior pressure, right? Brady loves to step up, but if you can get interior pressure, especially if you have the guards and center backing up into his face, that's going to cause issue. And then get in the face of the receivers. And of course, that would be the formula, right? Get home with 4 and make sure that there is interior pressure. But not all teams could do it. And Brady could, always figure it out too. Now, the Buccaneers figured out a formula would stop Mahomes, and that was just play Mahomes when he has no starting tackles and just have him run all over the place and literally not know what to do because he's running all over the place. Now, that's not a clear cut and dry formula yet, but New England seems to have developed a good formula against Mahomes, which is play cover 1, give help to Tyreek Hill with a deep safety always, and then play some kind of zoned coverage on Kelsey where you don't need to give him a pure double team, but you can give him what appears to be a double team in zone coverage, bracketing him, and stop those two. It has to turn into don't let Hill and Kelsey beat you. And if you don't, then you have a chance to win. Now, this is going to be just a spectacular game because of what both teams can do offensively. And if Bills can go into Kansas City and win, then you're going to be like, wow, okay, now this is a matchup that is going to be good for a long time. Now, if the Bills get beat again, right, they got beat in the regular season, they got beat in the AFC Championship game. Now, if they get beat week 5, you're like, this isn't much of a rivalry at all. The Bills just lose. The Bills are good, but they lose to Kansas City each time. Almost like a Patriots versus Andrew Luck-led Colts. Now, the Colts with Andrew Luck were really good, but then they would run into the Patriots buzzsaw, and then goodbye, see you later, you tried. This is a very important game for Buffalo and the morale of their team, I think, too, especially because I think the Bills have Chiefs and Titans back-to-back weeks. 2 tough games. This is number 2 game on my Sunday Night Football schedule. Now, number 1, I'm sure you saw it coming. It's Tampa Bay going to New England. There's no other way around it. I don't need to spend a lot of time talking about this one. The coach is going to be, although he'll look emotionless, he will be amped for this one. The Patriots won't say a word. They'll remain stoic and say that this is another game. The Buccaneers, we learned last year, they're not afraid to say things. Like New England was afraid to say things for so many years, and Tom Brady would say a lot without saying anything. He'd say nothing. Right? Bill Belichick would literally say nothing during press conferences. Now, Bruce Arians, the head coach in Tampa, he's not like that. He will say things. Tom Brady will now say things. I think Tom Brady said the other day he had a pretty serious knee surgery a few weeks ago. I feel like that would never have been disclosed if it was in New England. Tom just wouldn't say a thing about it. There's going to be a lot of emotions, right? You've listened to me before. You can go back in episodes past, literally pick and choose, because I probably talk about him every single day. A lot of emotions, Ryan, on this for Tom Brady. He was essentially kicked out the back door in New England and underappreciated, and people didn't believe in him. And then he goes to a new team, the Succaneers, the worst winning percentage in sports franchise history. Turns a 7-9 team into a Super Bowl winning team, and he did it in 1 year. And he brings Gronkowski with him. And by the way, if Tom Brady averages 288 passing yards through the first 3 games, then he's going to have a chance to break the all-time passing yards record in the regular season, the one that Drew Brees held in New England. And imagine he does it on a throw to Rob Gronkowski. So, if you look through the depth chart, New England spent $250 million and drafted a quarterback to try and make up for Tom Brady leaving. The Buccaneers are a loaded team, a Super Bowl winning team that brought back everyone. And a head coach that says he's going to whip them all into shape. And a quarterback that knows how to keep motivation on and avoid Super Bowl hangovers. This is going to be a great, great showdown. And it's very possible that both teams could be 3-0 heading into this game. The Patriots don't have too hard of a schedule the first 3 games, and the Buccaneers' probably toughest test is going to be the Rams the week prior. If you are not watching this game, there is something wrong with you. That is my top-ranked Sunday Night Football game of the year. Again, a recap, it is opening night at number 5. It's Dallas and Tampa Bay. Number 4, we had Cleveland and Baltimore. 3, we had San Francisco and Seattle. 2, we had Buffalo and Kansas City. And then the top-ranked Sunday Night Football game of 2021 is going to be Tampa Bay and New England. Tickets for that are out of the roof. But a ticket to listen to this podcast is free. Should I just, that was, hey, if you're listening to this out there, that was a great transition by me. I am the master of transitions and working things into this podcast. This is great. Well, I had a lot of fun today. We covered a lot of segments. So I guess we should wrap it up. I'll let you get back to your day if you want. So thank you for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you. All right. Love you guys. Have a great day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.